From the Polish powerhouse's long career of dominating the MMA world to him becoming the first person to break Israel Adesanya's legendary win streak, here's why fighters are scared of Jan Błachowicz. After starting his MMA career back in 2007 in Poland, Błachowicz created an outstanding record throughout multiple fighting leagues. I mean, just by looking at his fight history, you'll see just how insane he is. Up until now, Jan has fought in 39 MMA matches professionally, winning a total of 29, proving himself a dangerous fighter as well as a seasoned veteran. But what stands out about Jan's career is how genuine his hunger for fighting is, because about half of his fights took place in Poland, where the scene wasn't nearly as big as the UFC, especially with the fact that MMA as a sport didn't become mainstream until the past few years. Before coming to the UFC, Jan appeared in 3 different fighting leagues: FCP, World Absolute FC, and most notably KSW, in which he tore through the best fighters in the country. Interestingly, his finishes tell the story of his progression as a fighter, since he started off racking up an insane amount of wins using his submissions. In fact, he made so many people tap out that he had a streak for it spanning 5 matches. But after joining the UFC and developing his explosive striking, he started to finish more matches by knockout than by submission. I know you might be thinking his earlier career doesn't matter as much, because his opponents were probably low-level fighters, but Jan's talent can't be denied since he's proven his power in front of big-name fighters too. Like, he's taken out guys like Jared Cannonier, Luke Rockhold, and Israel Adesanya. So he's up there as one of the best light heavyweight fighters in the UFC. But reaching such a high rank was only possible because of his insanely well-rounded fighting style. You see, Jan is an absolute monster when it comes to striking, and no one can debate that. His knockout power is through the roof, tearing through his opponent's guards, sending them reeling to the ground in pain. He has a Muay Thai striking base, which gives him the power to deliver explosive kicks, chopping his enemies down throughout the fight to strategically dominate them later on. Being able to keep up with high-level strikers like Adesanya, he's proved that he can dominate the fight on his feet for sure. But what about his ground game? Well, for someone with the power that Jan holds, it's not so often that you see them try to focus on their grappling. But Błachowicz is not like the others. You see, Jan is a black belt in BJJ, giving him even more options to finish off his opponents. In fact, he has 9 submission victories to his name, and has no problem getting a good grappling match going. Even his Muay Thai helps him grapple, since he can always take his opponents into a clinch, easily overpowering them with his strength and brutal close-quarter striking. It's really hard to find holes in his game, because he somehow has an answer for everything you throw at him. The worst position to find yourself in the light heavyweight division is under Błachowicz's ground and pound, because usually, if you can't block his punches, you can at least run away from them on your feet, but with nowhere left to go, you're better off forfeiting the match. Błachowicz doesn't even need to try and scare fighters, because his highlight reel full of knockouts will do it for him. You see, coming face to face with someone as strong as Jan, there's a very real threat of getting your lights knocked out through every second of the match, so you really can't take him lightly. Just look at what he did to Dominic Reyes at UFC 253 if you want a showcase of a classic Błachowicz beatdown. It's crazy when you think about it, because Reyes went toe-to-toe with the greatest of all time in the sport, John Jones, and the fact that Bones couldn't finish him, but Błachowicz did, is insane. It wasn't even debatable who'd win, because Jan was punishing him through the whole match. Heck, at one point he even kicked Dominic so hard in the ribs, he left a bruise that started changing colors throughout the fight. But the main attraction was the climax of the match. You see, Reyes was desperately trying to keep up, but in the second round, Błachowicz caught him with a brutal combo, ending with a sharp left straight to his opponent's chin. He hit Reyes so bad that the poor guy started to do the chicken dance before Jan ultimately finished him off. On the other hand, Luke Rockhold met a much more swift end to his fight with Jan. Before they entered the octagon, Luke was trash-talking about how he doesn't think Jan will be able to beat him. So Błachowicz gave the guy the full experience of his signature strength, sending him straight to the Shadow Realm with a devastating left. I mean, you'd expect his matches to get pretty messy, but Jan finished Luke with such accuracy and speed, it was almost beautiful to watch. Maybe that's why he's starting to make a name for himself as a knockout artist. One thing about Jan that makes him exceptionally terrifying and surprising doesn't even happen in the octagon. You see, some fighters have superstitions that they believe will decide the fate of the match. And even though Błachowicz doesn't believe much in them, there's one ritual he does before heading into the octagon, which is more morbid than you'd expect. Jan revealed he was once walking through a forest with his dogs to cool off and get some much-needed peace. But that is when he saw a man standing by himself in the trees. Looks pretty normal, right? Well, when Błachowicz went closer to the man, he realized it was the corpse of a man who'd hung himself. Shocked by the sudden dead body in front of him, the UFC fighter called the police, who didn't even believe him at first. But when Jan took them to the location he found the body in, they were surprised too. After getting the dead man down from the noose, a policeman recognized who Jan was and told him to keep the rope cause it brings good luck. At first, Błachowicz was skeptical of the superstition, but after doing some research, he started believing in it too. So now, before every fight, Jan goes into the forest where he found the corpse hanging and touches the rope for good luck. I don't know about you, but that's one of the scariest things I've heard a fighter do to prepare for a fight. Like, after that, if his beliefs are right, you're not just fighting Jan, but also something supernatural. What's even more terrifying is that back in 2020, Jan revealed that the ritual had a 90% success rate. I don't even know how someone could counter that. But what seems equally supernatural is Błachowicz's granite chin, because of its unreal ability to take damage and keep going. It's common to see bigger guys being able to dish out a lot of damage, but can't handle taking it. That's not the case with Jan though, because the guy is a straight-up tank, going through the most brutal enemies and still being able to give them hell. It's surprising seeing him be so durable, especially with the fact that he's 40 years old now, with about 16 years of professional fighting. By now, most people's chins would have long expired. So seeing him walk through punches like it's nothing doesn't make sense. It's not just his chin which is durable though, because according to Paul Felder and Joe Rogan, Błachowicz's legs feel like they're made out of solid wood. The two talked about how in his fight against Magomed Ankalaev, Jan was kicking him straight up shin to shin, and at a point, Magomed's leg started to give in, but Jan was still standing unfazed. Getting past the Polish fighter's defenses is already hard enough, but being able to knock him out is a whole other obstacle in itself. Let's not forget, the guy has only lost by knockout once throughout his time in the UFC, and it was so unnatural seeing him go down that people had a hard time believing it happened. But ever since then, Błachowicz has looked as indestructible as ever. One of his biggest feats that leaves his opponents scared was his win against Israel Adesanya, because before facing him, the last stylebender hadn't lost a single MMA match. Like, Izzy's streak had been going on for about 9 years, with 20 fights under his belt. But Jan just came in and wrecked the middleweight champion. You see, with Adesanya being such a great striker, Jan knew that he had to cleverly target his weakness. And even though Izzy's takedown defense is top-notch, he just couldn't handle Jan's signature Polish power. So Błachowicz took the match to the ground and started beating the lights out of Izzy. And if the round didn't stop him, Jan could have finished him off. So if him beating an undefeated champion isn't enough to scare fighters off, I don't know what is. So there you have it, fight fans. From him becoming the first person to break Israel Adesanya's legendary win streak to his long career of dominating the MMA world, that was why fighters are scared of Jan Błachowicz.